Hi, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is one I've been very much looking forward to since the moment that Analogue Productions announced that they were doing this, and that basically is the full 45 RPM UHQR of Bob Marley's Rastaman Vibration. And if that isn't enough, the Ultra Tape release. So regular viewers will quite likely remember that I've already reviewed the 33 RPM Rastaman Vibration, which I think was released last year, it may have been the year before, and I'll put a link to that up here. This is actually quite a fundamentally significant record because Rastaman Vibration wasn't my favourite Bob Marley album. I didn't dislike it at all, but I just sort of almost kind of looked over it, passed over it, glossed over it. I think the first Bob Marley album I actually ever got was Legend, the compilation album. So, you know, records that were on there, big favourites. You know, they became my core of Bob Marley, if you like. So Rastaman Vibration was one I kind of almost looked beyond, looked past. And when I got this 33 RPM UHQR, one of the things that's, I mean, there was one track that just leapt out at me, which I'd almost completely ignored before, and that's Johnny Was. It just gave me goosebumps, brought tears to my eyes and left me speechless. It's so beautiful, so sensitive, and so moving. So since that point, frankly, and Exodus has been released, as you know, which I've got that, and I've done a video of that as well, which I'll put you up here. Okay, but Rastaman Vibration, since this UHQR came out, it's been my most played Bob Marley record. Okay, so I'll come back to this because we're going to talk about how the 33 UHQR, we'll revisit how it compares to the original, and then most specifically, I'm sure you all want to know how it compares to the 45 RPM UHQR, and some of you, I guess, will be interested to know how it compares to the Ultra Tape, and I will go there. We'll talk about all four versions and how they sound. So first thing I'm going to do is just show you what you get in this 45 RPM UHQR. Now, I'm sure anyone who's a follower of Analogue Productions will know that they've redesigned their UHQR packaging, and it now comes in a kind of a more traditional sort of clamshell style box. And I have to point out here that mine has got a split on the spine, which is really irritating, but I have 100% confidence that they will send me a replacement box. I haven't contacted them yet. It's the weekend now, and I'll probably do so on Monday. But anyway, what you get in here, you see here, nice gold lined box. The two LPs, pressed at QRP on Clarity vinyl, cut by Ryan K. Smith. More on that later as well. A really nice booklet. Great picture of Bob there. Beautiful picture of Bob and the i3s there on stage. And then here's the cover, which is textured as the original would be, and you've kind of got a smooth overlaid Bob and the writing, and it is just wonderful. And here's the lyrics, and the note that this album jacket is great for cleaning herb, and a little sort of certificate just telling you that there's 4,500 of these, which is cool to know. It's going to become a very collectible thing. Okay, so I'm going to put all that back in there, and then we're going to go straight into the listening. Okay, so to start off, I played the original because I wanted to refresh my memory of how the original sounds. I have actually changed a couple of items in the system since I did that original video. I've got a different tone arm and a different cartridge. And the first thing I'll say about the original, oh, and bear in mind this is actually a 1980 reissue, it sounds absolutely wonderful. It is just, I think this is divine music, really. It's beautiful. The bass is rich and deep and tuneful. The keyboards are airy and creamy and beautifully layered. The backing vocals, the girls, the I3s, they are just, they're quite sort of hard left channel, and they're clear and sweet. Bob's voice is dead center, very sort of three-dimensional, a little bit edgy. It is superb. Okay, it's funky, it's groovy, it's just captivating music. Until getting that 33 RPM UHQR, as I said, I really hadn't done this album justice. And so let's start now talking about that 33 RPM UHQR. So here we are again, and just to remind everyone, this is how the old style boxes are. So you can sort of slide out the entire inner tray which holds the record and all the inserts. And what's particularly cool in my situation, I've left this cling film on because it, you know, keeps it protected, but all the boxes, they fit into my shelves, and I just slide this piece out when I want to take a record. It's like a beautiful record dispenser. They take up a lot of space on the shelf, but I really, really, really do like these. I wish Analogue Productions would return to this type of backing. But anyway, I digress slightly. How does this UHQR sound compared with the UK original on Ireland? How does it compare? So it's more open, it's more detailed, there's more space, there's more clarity to every thread in the music. The bass is deeper and tauter, more tuneful. Bob's voice is more expressive, and I think that's the one thing that absolutely knocked me for six when I first played this, was how much more sensitive and textured and emotional Bob's voice was. And that's where, you know, I mean, like I say, I keep going on about Johnny Was, but it gave me goosebumps and absolutely captivated me. The backing girls, the I3s, their voices are sweeter and clearer. And then the keyboards, which are predominantly on the right channel, are again sort of sweeter and richer and more natural sounding. Everything about this is better than the original, and I mean everything. Now, interestingly, this was cut by Ryan K. Smith at Sterling Sound. I mean, I don't even know if Ryan K. Smith was born when this was cut, but it was cut at Sterling Sound, or mastered at Sterling Sound at any rate. So this original master tape was made at Sterling Sound, and it's returned to Sterling Sound to make these. And of course, it's also Sterling that made the other issues that we're going to be talking about in a minute. Okay, so is the 33 RPM UHQR better than the original? Hands down, absolutely, on every level. And whilst the original sounds absolutely phenomenal, once you've heard this, there's no going back. You feel like you've been robbed of the emotion and the sensitivity and the poignancy of the music if you try going back. So, how does this, the 33 RPM UHQR, compared with this, the brand new 45 RPM UHQR? So, you put this on, there is even more separation between the threads, even more separation between like the bass and the drums, you know, the lead guitar, the rhythm guitar, the three backing vocals, the separation between them, and then as a whole between them and the rest of the band. Bob's vocal is more separate, more three-dimensional, more hanging there in a natural space. And all of the percussion, there's so much sort of little percussive elements. They leap out of space, and yet there's no harshness. They all sound, you know, if they're woody, they sound wooden. the little sort of tings of like a triangle or something. It's just the most beautiful ting. It's absolutely exquisite. And the pitch definition of the bass, it's even better. So, you know, you just follow the tune, you're carried with it, you're seduced by it, and it is just absolutely captivating. There's nothing that's better about the 33 than this 45, okay? Now, is the gap between the 45 and the 33 as big as the gap between the 33 and the original? No, it's nowhere near. Nowhere near. We'll get onto the tape in a minute, and in that, after we've talked about that briefly, I'll sort of sum up and try and put everything in perspective. This is better than the 33. If you've already got the 33, do you really need this? I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you've already got the original, do you really need the 33? Well, you don't need it, but is it better? And once you've heard it, will you want it? Absolutely you will. And if you've already got the 33, would you be able to sell it, give it up and go back to the original? Well, you miss it. If you've got this, would you be able to go back to the 33? Again, you'd miss it, because it is better, and it's better on every level, but it's not by the same margin as the 33 is over the original, if you see what I mean. Okay, now we're going to get to the tape. So first of all, I'm just going to very quickly show you what you get in this tape box. So here's the front, as you see. Here's the back, and inside you kind of get a pull-out tray, and I'll show you what you get in here. So we've got one tape box for reel 1, which is side 1 of the original album. And if I open this up, there's your tape. And this is Recording the Masters SM900 tape, which is the top of the range mastering tape. It's absolutely beautiful. And these things are just staggering. Okay, so tape 1. Let me just put that back in the box. Here's a reproduction of the cover. A little note about the tape. And then here we have tape 2. Okay. Interestingly enough, I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and check previous ones, but I noticed this is recorded at 355 nanoevers a meter, which I'm actually a big fan of. I tend to use that more than I use 320, which is kind of a standard level. Gives a little bit more output, a little bit more signal to noise ratio. But this is, you know, this is stunning. And this is basically a 1-to-1 copy of that original master tape. So, how does the Ultra Tape compare with the 45 RPM UHQR? Now, I will just mention that when I make any of these changes, I use a sound pressure level meter and adjust the volume. Interestingly, I actually had to turn down both UHQRs relative to the original by 1 dB. So it's not a lot of difference, they're pretty much the same, but it's quite unusual because usually an audiophile pressing will be cut quieter. And in fact, these are cut 1 dB louder than the original. So I had to turn these down. Now, I use a professional tape machines. I've got a Studer A80 and a Studer 8112. And these are professional machines, and they operate at a much higher kind of line level than your hi-fi line level. So I had to turn it down quite a massive 12 dB to get parity of volume between the tape and the UHQRs. So just know that I adjusted everything to make it a fair comparison. Now, when you put the tape on, is it better than the UHQR? Yes, it is. Is it massively and obviously better? Well, that's an interesting point, because I think what the tape does is shows what an amazing job that Ryan Smith did of mastering and cutting both UHQRs, because the tape is better, but you have to sort of delve a little deeper into it to really realize why, how and where. Because on a sort of a slightly superficial level, the LPs, both the 33 and the 45, are sort of, I don't know, there's you know, they're differently mastered basically. I mean, when you cut an LP, you have to make slight compromises, and the compromises that Ryan Smith has made are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So when you first put this on, it's sort of like, is that better? And it takes just a few minutes to, yeah, no, I think it is better. And then sort of a few minutes more, oh yeah, no, it is better. And then by, you know, maybe by the end of side one, holy crap, it's magnificent and in another world. But I'm going to talk through the differences and how much better and how it improves upon the 45 and the 33 and the original vinyl, of course. So the girls, let's start with the i3s. They are even sweeter. They are even more three-dimensional, set in stone. Bob's voice is significantly more three-dimensional and vivid and there in the room. The bass definition is, well, the bass is deeper. There's no question of that. You're just noticing that, like the kick drum thud, you really feel it. It's got subterranean extension and punch and kick to it, but nothing is thrust forward in your face in this. You feel like you're listening to the sound in the studio, whereas with these you feel like you're listening to an absolutely exquisitely mastered version of what went down in the studio. Okay? And when I say that, you've got to kind of get your head around what job mastering does. And mastering is, it's a bit like, you know, you've got the mix and then it goes for mastering, and that mastering, they'll be making subtle changes to the levels and subtle changes to the EQ and, you know, little things like that. Mastering in a way is a bit like what you do when you choose your hi-fi system. So if you go out and buy one pair of speakers over another, you've made that choice based on the sound of those two speakers, and you'll listen to it and you think, oh, I like the tautness and sort of speed, if you like, of the bass on this particular pair of speakers relative to this one, which is a bit more warm and billowy, for instance. And those are sort of the decisions that a mastering engineer will make. And with vinyl, he has to kind of make compromises to get the record to play. So, you know, you will have to roll off the extreme low end to a slight degree, just so it doesn't throw your needle out the groove. You might have to de-ess the cymbals and the top end of the vocals and things, just so it doesn't sort of spit. There's similar decisions that you make when you choose your hi-fi system. And so what Ryan's done is made exquisite decisions to make a absolutely beautiful, playable, enthralling and enchanting piece of vinyl. Whereas what we have here is we have something that's even closer to actually what went down in the studio. And everybody in that band, on that stage, in that sound stage, is more there, more kind of architecturally set in stone, more tangible. You feel like you could put your hand around behind them and kind of hold them, hug them even. Bob's voice is very much more vivid. I mean, everything, the keyboards, I mean, there's so many wonderful layers of keyboard in it, the synths and the organ, mostly on the right-hand channel, but occasionally it pops up on the left. I mean, it's just how they constructed the thing in the mix. But every one of those synthesizer or keyboard organ sounds, lines, is just delicious. It's sort of buttery and creamy and textured and phenomenal. And the little sort of triangle ting that you hear, it's so vivid, it's so there, it's just incredible. So does the tape make any of the other things sound rubbish. No, it doesn't. But once you've heard the tape, do you think it's the best? Yeah, it is the best. It's the best by a fundamental margin, but it's not kind of, you know, you could have, if I had this and I had, well, I've got all four of them, to be honest. I don't necessarily intend on keeping all four of them. The tape is the one I want to play over and over and over, but I could go back to this 45 RPM UHQR, or I could go back to this 33 RPM UHQR equally happily, and if I had to keep any one of them, I'd be happy with it. Okay, I would, you know, I know that the others are better, but I don't, it's not like either of them are bad in any way, shape or form. But it is quite interesting because it's only when you go back from the tape to the 45 and from the 45 to the 33 and the 33 to the original that you really kind of like, oh, okay, you know. So going back to the 45 after the tape, this is a touch thinner, okay? It doesn't quite have the extension and the weight, and it doesn't quite have the power and the three-dimensional solidity, but it still sounds absolutely fantastic, okay? What about when you go back from the 45 to the 33? Again, it just sounds a little bit less immediate. It's a little bit sort of sweeter, sort of softer sounding. I mean, tonally they are the same, but it just hasn't got quite that sort of separation and quite that clarity. But it's quite a small margin, okay? And what about when you go back from the 33 UHQR to the original? The original just sounds a little bit thin and a little bit flat and a little bit edgy and a little bit sort of congealed, if you like the various elements of sort of set into one. So what about the kind of the size of the improvements? Because I alluded to this earlier on. So I would say the biggest upgrade in sound is going from the original to the 33. If the 45 and the Ultra Tape weren't available, having heard this over the original, and this sold out overnight, so prices for these were going through the roof. I don't know what you pick one up for now. I've no doubt the price has come down a bit, seeing as we've got even better versions available now. But if I had a friend who'd bought this and I just had, but I didn't have it myself, and I'd listened to it, because it's so fundamentally better, and it actually transformed for me this from being one of my kind of also ran Bob Marley albums to possibly even my favorite. I'd have hunted down one of these, moved heaven and earth to do so. It's stunning, okay? Absolutely stunning. That's the biggest difference. The biggest upgrade is from the regular 33 RPM original to the 33 RPM UHQR. The difference between the 33 and the 45 RPM UHQR, it's not as big as the difference from the original to the 33. I'd say, okay, let's try and talk percentages here. If we say the original is, and it does sound amazing. So if we say the original's like 75%, we're probably going up to 90% with the 33 RPM UHQR. And then from the 33 RPM UHQR to the 45 RPM UHQR, we're probably going from 90 to 95%. It's very much the same, with the exception that there is more separation, not massively more, because this is stunning, but there is tangibly more separation. There's tangibly more sort of delineation between the space, front to back, the air around everything. The bass is tangibly clearer and more kind of pitch correct, so sort of tighter, tauter when as the bass notes change, you follow them. It's more tuneful. The girls are as sweet but slightly more open, and the keyboards are again as sweet but slightly more open, slightly more separation between each layer. Okay, and then finally the difference between the 45 RPM UHQR and the Ultra Tape, well, I think that takes us from 95 to 100. And really, this is like, it's kind of, it's almost like spiritual improvements here, if you see what I mean, because this is so good. But it is that the bottom end, the kick drum and the bass has more weight. It's the weight and the kick of the kick drum in particular, and the fact that the bass is, you know, it is better, and the openness, particularly around Bob's voice, is startling. The weight of his voice has more, like a more organic, natural, hewn from rock kind of quality, and the pure dynamism of it, the you know, all these little sort of percussive elements, and the guitar. I mean, the lead guitar, there's moments where the lead guitar comes in kind of on the left channel that are just, it's like it's in the room with you. It's so vivid yet not in your face. It sits where it is in the soundstage, but it's just, wow, you know. And all this little percussive elements from left, from right, from front, from back, they're just phenomenal. So, you know, if we look at what, I mean, if we look at what you actually get for your money, this is $450, okay? This is $150. It's 3 times as much. But, you know, a reel of blank tape is about $80, $90, something like that. I think this is the biggest bargain of the lot, just because of what you actually get for your money. Although it is a blooming expensive record, $450 for a record is a heck of a lot of money. I fully appreciate that, but you know, it's not like there's a massive catalogue of these Ultra Tapes out there. So I think in terms of, you know, this title, just had to have it. Absolutely amazing. $150 for this. Again, it's not cheap for a record at all. It really isn't. But it's just hauntingly beautiful. Absolutely. And it is so much better than the original. Okay? Now, if you already got one of these, the 33 RPM UHQR, would you buy the 45? I guess that's possibly the sort of the real crux of this review. It is better. There's no question it's better. You've got to weigh up the fact that this is on 45 RPM, 2 LPs, so you've got to jump up and turn. I mean, there's quite a few sides that have only got 2 tracks on it, so you are up and down flipping the sides. Now, it's funny, but that used to bother me a heck of a lot more than it does now. You know, something like Yes, Close to the Edge, or Genesis, Supper's Ready. That's a completely different kettle of fish. We'll have to wait to see how I deal with that and how I get on with it. But it doesn't bother me in the slightest now. I really don't mind jumping up and changing the record over. This is 150 and this was 100. So, okay, I don't think you'd pick up one of these for 100 anymore because they're so collectible. So if you didn't get one of these, buy the new one without a shadow of a doubt, because it's better. It's simple as that, okay? If you've got the 33 and the notion of jumping up and down and changing the sides doesn't bother you, and you just want something that's, you know, if it's going to bug you, the fact that like the 45 is available now and you just know that there's something even better out there, then go and get the 45, because it is better, but it's not massively better, okay? But it is definitely tangibly better. You put it on and straight away it's like, oh yeah, it is. But that doesn't stop this being a staggering release, an absolute staggering release. So on conclusion, we've got 3 Analogue Production releases of Bob Marley's Rastaman Vibration, and I'm going to give them all 10 out of 10 for what they are, for what they cost, and for what they give you. They take an amazingly beautiful album, and you get to experience it closer to how it sounded when it went down in the studio than you will have ever heard before. Okay, it's just absolutely staggering. I cannot recommend this enough. I will point out that next week's video is almost certainly going to be Exodus, because I've also got Exodus, and I think it's kind of telling that if this hadn't already come out, bearing in mind that finances are a little bit tight at the moment, I probably would have just bought Exodus UHQR and the Exodus Ultra Tape, because I didn't really appreciate Rastaman Vibration. And of course, you know, last week they all turned up together. I haven't played, in fact I haven't even opened my Exodus UHQR yet, and I've played the tape through once just to check it's okay, and this is the one that I just couldn't wait to hear, because how damn good these UHQRs are, and how that UHQR in the first place a year or so ago absolutely transformed what I think about this album. It is staggeringly beautiful. It's one of the most moving, tender, beautiful things I've ever heard. Bob Marley, Rastaman Vibration. Positive vibration, yeah. I'll thank you all for watching. Please leave a comment down below. Please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe. It all helps very, very much. Thank you very, very much. See you again soon. Bye.